Edinburgh's Dovecot Studios is celebrating the centenary of renowned Scottish artist Alan Davie with an exhibition that opens today. Rarely seen works from the hugely influential painter, jewellery maker and jazz musician, among other things, will be displayed in the show. It's called Beginning of a Far-Off World, and there is even a chance, I believe, to buy some of his work. It's the only Scottish exhibition to mark his centenary, and with me now is artist and curator Siobhan McLaughlin. Thank you so much for joining us, Siobhan.
Thanks for having me.
I missed you this morning, but I got off the train and I went straight to the Dovecot and I was absolutely bedazzled, and it was busy first thing in the morning. People are excited about Alan Davie, right?
I'm delighted you like the show.
He's a wonder.
He is. I guess for someone who worked for 8 decades of his life across so many different creative pursuits, that energy.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a sense of what we can see, because there are paintings, obviously. There are lovely photographs showing him at work and with friends. There's a tapestry, let's start with that, the big one.
The big tapestry and the rug on the floor, bright pink. What a great colour palette for someone to make. I think it was a great collaboration Davie had with Dovecot Studios, and that's really the reason why I approached them initially. I thought that'd be the perfect place to have the exhibition. And I think that work really encapsulates Davie's approach to life and to his work. You know, the collaboration and openness, which makes him such an interesting artist.
He was a hugely adventurous spirit, wasn't he? He embraced nature and magic, and all of that informs his work. When did you first become aware of him, Siobhan?
I think at a course at university, actually, on Scottish art in 2014. I wrote an essay on him, and that's kind of what started my interest. And then in 2019, I managed to access a private collection of his work.
How do you do that? How do you manage to access a private collection of Alan Davie's work? That's like a dream.
Through, I think, a lot of digging, asking questions. But I was really shocked at how many works were in this collection, completely inaccessible to the public. And I think that's the excitement I felt at viewing those rarely seen works gave me the idea for the exhibition, and a drive to open up this resource to more people.
Because they should be seen and they should be shared, right?
Definitely.
And so did you find that was met with open minds and open arms, and you could access these, and here we are?
Surprisingly, yes. I think because a lot of the private collectors were friends of Davie, so they were really keen to support the exhibition and really celebrate his life, especially because no major institutions were planning to celebrate his centenary, which is in 2020. So I saw it as a real opportunity to show a retrospective of his work.
It's quite incredible that this is the only exhibition in Scotland in what is his centenary, pandemic notwithstanding. In those couple of years, we just give or take them, don't we? He was so influential, and he embraced so many different disciplines. Does it surprise you that there's not been more? Because there should be.
Oh, totally. And I think, he's admired by so many contemporary artists like Peter Doig, David Hockney and Damien Hirst, who's a big collector of Alan Davie's work. And I think in his early days, he was seen as a kind of Scottish Jackson Pollock. But he's just not that well known, like in his hometown, home country.
Yeah, the colours for me are just so utterly vivid and vibrant and, compelling. But also music was a hugely powerful element in his work, and even in his practice, and the rhythms of his paintings and his art, weren't they?
Definitely. I think he played in jazz bands after the war for quite a while, and even though he stopped playing in bands in, I think, maybe the 50s, he started back up in a more free-form jazz, experimental period in the 70s, and we have some of the pieces he worked on with other musicians in the exhibition on headphones, because they're quite intense, experimental.
I loved it, and I loved that that was part of it, because it's an intrinsic part of who he was.
Definitely. I think, he didn't see any hierarchy between different art forms. Music, art, even gliding, swimming, he just was so energetic in everything he did in his life. He didn't see any difference between, say, jazz music and graffiti he came across in his local park, or a masterpiece of African sculpture and works in the Modern Art Museum in New York. To him, they were all just miraculous demonstrations of creativity.
Yeah, and he was fascinated by the continuation of patterns, ancient, cosmic, contemporary, futuristic, all of that is embedded in his work as well, isn't it?
Totally, and I think, he was connected to so many cultures across the world, but the root of it kind of comes from him being a very strongly felt Celtic artist. And that, like you said, the patterns, the interlacing, yes, it's really exciting. There's a lot of pattern, a lot to see in the exhibition for sure.
Yeah. So I picked up the programme on my way out, so I had at least a little souvenir of what I'd seen, and I just wonder if I open it, if you can just to sort of give us a sense of what he did and what he was like as an artist. I took a photograph of myself, Siobhan. I asked for permission to do this, incidentally, in front of Jazz by Moonlight No. 2, which is from 1996, and it's an absolute riot of colour, and there is the sort of spattering that maybe was part of the reason why he was called everyone likes a marketing tag, right? The Scottish Jackson Pollock. We don't need to go there. But I mean, it also looks so modern even now. It looks brand new. It looks like it's from the future. It was timeless.
Completely, and I think that's partly to do with his kind of sense of space and sense of abstraction, but with more defined symbols, but also the colour palette. Putting hot pink and red together.
Yeah.
In the 60s, it's a very contemporary colour palette.
So he worked in collaboration with lots of people, lots of ideas, with nature, with the sky, because he loved to glide, didn't he? He liked to be like a bird.
Yes,
quite literally. But also he worked with Dovecot. Tell us a little bit more about that and how important that was to him to have that collaboration rooted in Scotland.
Well, what's nice, you mentioned the photographs in the exhibition. We've got a photograph of a rug that his wife Billy made of one of his works, and I think it's really lovely to see that in the domestic space, and perhaps that was one of the reasons why he approached Dovecot. He made a huge tapestry for called the Morton Hall tapestry for, I think, the Edinburgh Infirmary building, and then Celtic Spirit, the huge pink rug. I think he really, really admired the weavers and their technical skill. I think he would have loved to do it himself, but from speaking to the weavers at Dovecot, he stood back and let them do what they had to do. I think being around creative people was key for him, although he was quite a solitary figure. In the exhibition text, I've tried to kind of draw out different things he was inspired by, because no artist works alone. I know that from being a painter myself. So the interest in collaboration was definitely key to his process.
The rug is an absolute showstopper.
Oh, it is. I'd love to have it in my living room.
It is utterly glorious, but I also love the fact that his work can be translated from one form to another, one medium for another, a paint into a rug, or jewellery or music into whatever else. It's the fact that, the idea almost was key to him rather than perhaps anything else, or that was at the heart of it.
Yes, definitely, because I think he didn't like the idea of kind of theorising about his work. For him, it was more about like a feeling and dreaming about being open, listening, appreciating other cultures. And I think that's kind of part of the reason why he's so relevant today. It's definitely being open and appreciating other cultures is definitely something we need a bit more of in today's climate, I think. And hopefully that's something people get from the exhibition, kind of moving around the different periods of his life.
Yeah, and immersing ourselves in it as well. Those headphones, it's just terrific to be sat looking at these images and hearing a different approach from the same artist. You mentioned you're an artist now yourself, of course, Siobhan. You mentioned that you wrote an essay on him when you were at art college. You could have presumably written about anyone, so I'm wondering what it was about Alan Davie that spoke to you and that inspired you, even at the academic level, and presumably also on a creative level as well.
Definitely. I find his work just really invigorating. I graduated from Edinburgh College of Art nearly 80 years after Davie himself painted in those same studios, which is a kind of nice connection. And although my work is very different to him, but I do paint on quite a large scale like him, his drive to explore and his enduring creativity across various art forms is something I really admire. I think also part of me was feeling like a lot of the writers on Davie's work academically apart from Helen Little, who's a key figure, and a few others, there's not many female writers on his work, or female curators of his work. And I was really keen to bring my voice, to bring other voices that are new to the kind of writing about his work.
Totally, that's absolutely vital. Having delved into this private collection, having brought it to the fore and into the light, for which we're hugely grateful. It's wonderful to see. Do you see his work in a different light? Have you learned anything or delved into anything you hadn't really noticed before in his work? Now you see this exhibition in situ.
Definitely, because I think instead of curating it chronologically, I've tried to pair works from across the decades to find kind of different links and see things in a new light. I'm also trying to explore in the exhibition the kind of tricky subject of inspiration / appropriation, because he was an artist interested in so many different cultures. But I think what I've found is that, he wasn't kind of fetishizing exotic cultures. He just believed that we were all part of the same kind of universal connection.
Yeah, and you do address that in the notes as well.
Yes, I think it's quite important to think about it. But I've tried to think about it in my own work as well, this idea of the kind of collective unconscious, things shared across time and space.
Yeah, quite. And magic and music.
Definitely.
And flying and tapestry and that rug. Siobhan, really, really lovely to see you. I can't wait to go back. I had to rush up to come here. My goodness, I just want to stay there forever, I think. Really lovely to speak to you this afternoon. Thank you
so much.
Curator and artist Siobhan McLaughlin, they are discussing the retrospective at the Dovecot of the brilliant Alan Davie. To book, just visit dovecotstudios.com.